The housing market is starting to see conditions get worse. Now, besides buyer demand, of course, going down and mortgage rates going up, we're continuing to see home prices and home sales collapse. Now, it's not just buyers and sellers that are very concerned about this, but also builders are very nervous about what is taking place. They're starting to drastically slow down the rate at which they are building houses, and as a result, they feel that we're in the midst of a housing recession and things are going to continue to get worse. We're already seeing evidence of this with many recent reports backing it up, and so there's a lot to talk about in today's video between all of that and the current state of the housing market. So before I get started, do me a favor and support the channel by smashing that like button, and if you haven't already done so, definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell to watch more content like this. And with that said, let's jump into it. The National Association of Realtors just released their report showing where the median sales price is currently at, and while many experts expected that we may end up seeing prices actually go up this month, especially due to the interest rates going down a little bit in July and August, well, in reality, we actually saw it go down again, and it went down from $389,500 down to $384,800. Now, that's the official numbers for the month of September. If you actually go back to the beginning of the summertime, we reached a peak of $413,800. Those were the highest levels we saw for median sales price. And so if you go from peak levels down to where we're at now, we've already seen prices drop over 7% on a nationwide level. Now, like I just mentioned, remember these September sales are for homes that were probably listed in the month of July or August, which was in that period of time we saw mortgage rates sitting around the 5% levels. Well, today mortgage rates have reached as high as 7.37%. Now, these mortgage rates are really the highest levels we've seen during this cycle and the highest levels of mortgage rates we've seen in over 20 years. So it's really making housing extremely unaffordable, and as long as the Federal Reserve plans to continue to stay aggressive with its monetary policy, then what we can expect is that mortgage rates are going to continue to rise. My personal opinion is we're definitely going to see mortgage rates go over 8%. Some experts are actually predicting we may even be at over 10% mortgage rates by early 2023. So because there's so many of us that are expecting mortgage rates to continue to go up, naturally housing affordability is only going to get worse, which by the way, right now we're already sitting on the worst housing affordability levels in over 38 years. So you can only imagine how much worse it's going to get as mortgage rates continue to go up, and that's going to cause more price declines in the housing market, which by the way, those house prices still haven't caught up to where mortgage rates currently at, because we will not get that data, unfortunately, until November time at the earliest, maybe even December. And so builders know what's going on, and so that's why right now we're seeing a lot of reports of builder sentiment levels reaching new record lows. Now, one of the most important responsibilities that builders have is to look into the future of what's going to happen with the economy and the housing market, because ultimately that's going to play a huge role in their ability to sell the houses that they're building. So we talk about home builder sentiment, and the levels are going down drastically as far as the way that builders feel about the housing market. Now, 50 is seen as the deciding point as to whether it's a positive or a negative sentiment. Below 50 is considered negative, and we've recently been in the negative sentiment territory. We were at 46 in the month of August. Now in September, we jumped all the way down to 38. Now, these are the lowest levels we've seen of builder sentiment since back in 2012, when we were trying to recover from the Great Recession of 2008. Now, we're also seeing that builders are starting to slow down their building as a result of their negative sentiment. Housing starts has gone down by 8.1% month over month, and it's important to not just focus on housing starts, because that covers both multifamily and single family houses, but we want to focus really on single family houses. So looking specifically at single family homes, we saw that housing starts were at an annual rate of 892,000, which is the lowest levels we've seen since the beginning of the pandemic. Also, building permits for single family homes are also at the lowest level since the beginning of the pandemic. So builders obviously don't feel too good about the future outlook of the housing market. They're already offering major incentives, they're already making major price drops, but aside from builders, buyers also don't feel particularly good about the current state of the housing market. You see, with affordability levels being so far out of whack, it's really pricing out so many buyers from even having a choice. Even if they wanted to buy a house, they don't even have the option because their income just simply isn't enough to qualify. Now, we're seeing this have an effect on the amount of mortgage applications that are coming in. Now, Mortgage Bankers Association reported that the amount of applications are actually at the lowest levels in over 25 years, taking us all the way back to 1997. We're continuing to see this downward trend take place, and particularly with mortgage purchase applications, we saw that go down over 4% this last week and 38% down year over year. So this is ultimately a very strong signal that buying demand is continuing to plummet as we continue to see the amount of mortgage applications go down, particularly purchase applications. Now, the reason why we're not particularly seeing house prices decline rapidly at this point is we're also seeing new listings decline drastically and the total amount of active inventory. You see, the more we see declines in active inventory and new listings, naturally that's going to put more upward pressure on home prices, which kind of makes it a slower process for this battle going on between buyer demand going down and new listings and also active inventory going down. Now, personally, I believe that we're going to see buyer demand go down at a faster rate than we will see active listings and new listings go down, because ultimately buyers don't have a say in this. You see, if you can't qualify for a mortgage because the amount of income you make doesn't qualify for the house you want to get, then you're just simply priced out of the market whether you like it or not. Whereas with sellers, it's been reported that over 85% of homeowners with mortgages are locked into rates under 5%. So who's going to give up their 2%, 3%, 4% rates for something like a 7%, eventually 8% mortgage rate? It doesn't make any sense. And aside from that, they're very aware at this point that buyer demand is going way down, and so it's going to be a lot harder to get the price they might desire for their house. So both parties ultimately have good reasons for why they wouldn't want to list or why they wouldn't want to buy, but ultimately the difference is sellers have a choice whereas buyers don't. And so as a result, we will continue to see supply increase as far as months of supply is concerned, and we did actually see that continue to grow according to the latest report. You see, Redfin reported that we just saw months of supply rise to the highest level since June of 2020, now sitting at 3.1 months of supply. As this continues to increase, because real estate prices long term are going to be dictated by supply and demand, and ultimately as supply goes up, that's going to force prices to have to come down. But right now what we're seeing, like we've talked about, this big standoff between buyers and sellers taking place, it's really caused housing transactions or even home sales to plummet. And we just recently heard from the National Association of Realtors that existing home sales continues to go down. According to the NAR, we saw a year-over-year decline of 23.8% when it comes to existing homes sold, and monthly we saw another decline of 1.5%, and that was the 8th month in a row that we've continued to see existing home sales decline, which was the first time we've seen something like that happen really since back in 2007. In addition to that, outside of the pandemic, this is the lowest levels of existing homes sold we've seen since back in 2012. So we're continuing to see the amount of existing homes sold go down. We're also continuing to see homes sit on the market longer as buyer demand continues to plummet, and the median days on market, according to Redfin, has now gone up to 34 days on market. This is significantly higher than the lows we made this year of 16 days on market, and this naturally leads to more price drops, which also recently hit a new high in this cycle, now up to 7.9% on the weekly levels, which is about 31.6% because we multiply it by 4 for the actual monthly data, and that gives us 31.6% of all listings nationwide are seeing a price drop take place of some kind. So overall, we are continuing to see prices slowly fall according to that latest report we spoke about, but ultimately I do believe things are going to start to speed up in this housing crash, especially as we catch up to these current mortgage rates, and especially down the road as mortgage rates continue to reach new highs. So I'm going to keep my eyes peeled as we continue to get more up-to-date information. Once we start getting to November, really December time, we can start to see how these 7% mortgage rates are truly affecting house prices, and that will give us better insight to the housing market. But until then, I'll continue to keep you updated with everything on the housing market. And if you enjoyed today's video and gained some value, do me a favor and support the channel by smashing that like button. And if you haven't already done so, definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell to watch more content like this. Also, if you have any questions or thoughts, let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to get back to you. Finally, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Out-of-State Investor. And if you enjoyed today's video, I'm going to highly recommend checking out one of these two videos over here. And with that said, I'll see you guys on the next one.